May is said to be the busiest month in terms of people moving from one place to another. This includes college students moving out of dormitories and apartments and adults moving to new locations for career or other reasons. This means May is also the busiest month for dishonest movers and scammers to operate. Paula Fleming of the Better Business Bureau has some advice on how to avoid being scammed. You have some statistics about how many people were affected by this last year.
Yes, unfortunately on a national level we have received over 1 million inquiries about this industry. So we are encouraging people. That's great that people are inquiring prior to making any purchases for the service, but we're encouraging you again to make sure that it's a legitimate mover.
Yeah, just because they have a truck and a website doesn't mean they're an actual legitimate moving company.
Right, it doesn't have to be a tedious task to find a mover, but that's where the Better Business Bureau would come into play. Make sure they're legitimate. You don't just want to sign on with anyone that comes to your front door or go to a website and have a false pretense delivered to you through that online nice looking website, and what you get is shoddy mover and damaged goods.
Now, your first bit of advice on the list is to research the company. How specifically do you do that?
Well, you can, as I said before in many of these interviews, it's always bbb.org. We have very legitimate, credible movers on our website, so we do encourage you to use one of those.
Yeah, and not just inquire about one. That's your next bit of advice.
No, definitely get 3 different estimates. First of all, the cheapest always isn't the worst, whereas the highest isn't always the best. So make sure that you get all the details in fine print. Some of the situations where we have had complaints on a national level, where you sign a contract, they claim it will be X amount of money. When it's all said and done, they're tripling the price, and they hold your goods, your personal items, hostage. So you have to be very careful. You
also suggest that you know your rights. Well, yes. What are some of those rights, and how do you research that?
Well, if you're Massachusetts, Rhode Island, you want to make sure if you're going across the state lines that you research those rights, and that would be on the state government websites, because not all movers are licensed to go across state lines. So you want to make sure that you know your rights state by state, or even if it's just home to home within the same town, you still again need to know your rights, which do vary from each state. Now, you also suggest that the customers consider full value protection. What's that? Sure, full value protection would help, say if your TV was damaged, or say that a personal family heirloom was damaged. This would help prevent any of those issues and cover the cost of those issues. So sometimes that is worth looking into, but also discuss it with the mover. If it's an ethical mover, they'll tell you what they will cover versus what the full protection will cover. And bbb.org has more valuable advice about this. Paula Fleming, thank you for joining us. Thanks for having me.